All right, who here knows what an advantage is? Please raise your hand. Who here does not know what an advantage is? Who here knows what a disadvantage is? All right, let's make sure we're on the same page. An advantage comprised of 3 elements. What are those 3 elements? Someone. Well, sure. Let's actually start. What is a disadvantage comprised of? 3 elements. Yes, uniqueness, link, and impact. Uniqueness being a description of the status quo, a link for why the app changes the status quo, and an impact for the reason, or the reason why the app changes the status quo and why that's bad. All right, why is a disadvantage a reason to negate?
Something bad that the app does?
Yes, it presents a cost to doing the affirmative. Debate is a game of economics to some extent because it is a question of what we do with our limited time and resources. Do we cast moral judgments in a certain way by condemning certain actions that would be prohibited? Do those prohibitions work? What do we say, what actions the United States should take? And we should only take those actions that the United States, or in the context of this resolution, the United States should take if the benefits outweigh the costs. The way we determine the benefits outweigh the costs are using these things called advantages and disadvantages. If the advantage of doing something outweighs the disadvantage of doing something, we would say that the affirmative has proven the resolution is a good idea and we ought to do the resolution. And if the negative proves that the disadvantage outweighs the advantage, then the negative has won because they presented a cost that is greater than the benefit of doing the affirmative. These benefits and costs are associated with advocacies. So hopefully you've learned what advantages and disadvantages are. So this module is going to be about plans and counterplans, which are advocacies in debate that we can associate advantages and disadvantages with. Literally only 5 minutes will be spent on plans. It's really easy. The hard part are the counterplans. So what is a plan? Yeah.
Like the way that the app is going to carry out the action.
The way that the affirmative carries out the resolution. Okay. Any other definitions of a plan?
It's the affirmative advocacy.
Yeah, it's the affirmative advocacy. Why is it different from just a general whole resolution affirmative? Yeah.
It's like more specific to like a certain part of the resolution.
Yeah, so it's more specific to a certain part of the resolution. So generally, plans differ from whole resolution affirmatives or affirmatives that defend the resolution as a general principle because they specify particular solvency mechanisms, which we'll get to in a second, and they parametricize or narrow down the resolution and defend specific forms of implementation. Most whole resolution affirmatives merely cast a moral judgment as to, is this idea in general, like on the balance, or as a whole, good, right? So in the United States, it would be on balance good if national service were compulsory because of, I don't know, maybe civic engagement or something like that. And you would just sort of defend that. But a plan would defend a much more specific or narrow instance of the resolution. So for example, a plan that could be read is the one that was read in the demonstration debate between Oliver and Bennett, which was the plan was to adopt a compulsory military service, a scheme that was proposed by Representative Rangel in 2003. That is an example of a narrow, specific way in which the affirmative defended the resolution. So most plans are comprised of a few stock issues. I'll write them out here on the board if there's room anywhere, because I can't tell you what the acronym is, but you'll be able to figure out what the acronym is real quickly. Okay. We'll walk through each of these segments real quickly because no one uses these stock issues anymore, but it's worth understanding what these are and if people attempt to use these terms. The first one is S for significance. It proves that the harms that the affirmative are discussing are relevant enough to consider debating. If they're not significant, if the affirmative does not try to solve something that's important, who really cares? These harms must be significant. So, for example, if the plan was to institute national service because one person in Iowa thought it was a good idea and he was really sad that his son didn't get to serve in the military, we would hardly consider that a significant harm. But if we were, for example, to say that something in the status quo was bad, such as our lack of military readiness or a declining civic engagement, we would say that that is a bad thing and worth debating. So it must be significant. Then there are harms. So significant harms usually just goes together. Harms are the bad things in the status quo that the affirmative aims to solve. So in this context, the affirmative would defend a plan that says there is a problem in the status quo, namely a lack of civic engagement, and claims that these are potentially big problems that, if not dealt with, causes problems to the United States society, all citizenry, American democracy, whatever value you want to describe it, et cetera, et cetera. The next part is I for inherency. Inherency merely describes why the plan has not yet been implemented. So if people say that your app is not inherent, it generally means that your affirmative is already passed. That is silly. If your affirmative is already passed, do not defend that app. So for example, if you were defending a selective service plan that currently exists in the status quo, the negative would rightly point out, your app is not inherent. You should lose because you did not propose a change from the status quo. So your app must be inherent. The T is for topicality. Your affirmative must be topical. So if, for example, the resolution is in the United States, national service ought to be compulsory, a potentially topical plan, or one that affirms the resolution, would be to defend compulsory military service. Even though that's not exactly what the resolution says, we know that that's a form of national service, and if everyone did it, it would be compulsory. And if everyone were to do compulsory military service, it would prove that in the United States, national service ought to be compulsory. But if someone was like, plan, the United States should give TVs to everyone, that would not be a topical plan, because it's a much more narrow instance, but it does not affirm the resolution. It does not affirm that national service ought to be compulsory. And finally, you have solvency, right? Which is how the affirmative solves the problems that they describe. Significance, harms, and then they try to solve them. And then, of course, there's also the plan text, but it doesn't fit in nicely with the acronym. So the plan text is merely the part of the affirmative that you defend specifically, where you have the text of the plan that explains this is what the affirmative does. So in the demonstration debate, it was something along the lines of plan, the United States should adopt a compulsory military service scheme proposed by Representative Lincoln. Something like that. Plans are easy to get. The AF defends something, they defend an advocacy, they have advantages to that advocacy, and they say that's why it's a good idea. The reason why no one uses this model anymore is it's bulky and cumbersome. For example, the affirmative does not need to generally specify that they are topical in the affirmative case. If they do, it's usually because they're cheating and not actually topical. The affirmative usually does not need to specify that they're inherent, because if you're not inherent, that means you did terrible research and you deserve to lose on face. So generally, the affirmative does not need to put any of these things in there. So the only thing you would need are significant harms and solvency. But that's cumbersome. We really don't like describing it this way, generally. And instead, it can all just be rolled together into the advantage format. So just like a disadvantage is a cliff where we say the status quo is fine now, and the aft shoves us off the cliff and into the pit of fiery death where we all die. The affirmative advantage is basically a link turn to the disadvantage, where the harms are that we are currently falling off the cliff. The solvency, or the link argument, is that the affirmative pulls us back onto the cliff, and the impact would be the significant harms that would come as if a result if we did not do the affirmative.
Could it be the opposite, that going back onto the cliff and you're getting the benefits when you're on the cliff instead of...
Well, yeah, but if generally most affirmative cases have like extinction impacts or like giant mutual impacts, and those are as a result of doing the affirmative and avoiding extinction impacts, right? There could be a unique benefit to pulling us up onto the cliff. So say, for example, there's a cabana party up here, and you just want to say, or like, good old Dissat Dan on the cliff here and bring them to the cabana party. But in most plans, it's more about avoiding extinction and giant big impacts like that. But for example, and almost every plan is like this, because most plans are designed to solve a problem in the status quo, not bring about a proactive benefit. So even your structural violence type apps, which are just like in the status quo, people are being marginalized. That's why we need national service to like revitalize civic engagement and to like help poor people and stuff. Well, the argument is that if we don't help poor people, then poverty continues, and that causes a lot of suffering, pain, and death. Not that it necessarily brings about a positive good, it just merely stops the harm that is occurring right now. So that's why most plans are not in the form of the original acronym or those stock issues, but most plans are instead in a plan advantage format, where they simply say, plan, do X, advantage 1 is civic engagement, and then they just read the advantage. So, and if you all know what advantage is, that's simple. So plans are easy. Are there any questions so far? Cool. Plans are easy, counterplans are not, and that's where the majority of this lecture is. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, debate is, to some degree, a question of costs, right? And benefits and costs. And you might think, well, debate's not cost-benefit analysis. We have like frameworks and stuff. Like, we defend Kant and all of these other cool things. Well, the cool thing is that we don't really specify what a cost or what a benefit is. What a cost or benefit is determined by the framework. So for example, a cost to doing the affirmative could in fact just be that you violate a Kantian principle. Or the cost of doing the affirmative is, as Bennett's freedom NC said, you violate freedom, and that's bad. And that is potentially a cost. Hi, what's your name?
Alex?
I'm not sure if you're in this module.
The other person just said.
Oh, okay. Sure. So those costs and benefits are contextualized via the affirmative or the negative framework. So a cost could be, for example, just violating freedom. But there are other ways to sort of figure out what costs are. And the affirmative attempts to propose benefits by proposing a plan and advantages, and those are the benefits of doing it. And generally the negative will propose a disadvantage, right? And say that this is a cost to doing it, a direct cost of doing something. Like if we were to do the resolution of national service, one of the direct costs it would have is to violate people's freedom. But this is problematic because we don't really think about the real world as merely a simple proposal and only disadvantages of that proposal. We have to consider it in the context of other choices that exist because we are capable of taking more than one course of action. Enter the counterplan. The most important thing you need to know about the counterplan is that the counterplan is an opportunity cost to the affirmative. An opportunity cost is the cost of the next best thing that you sacrifice when you take one course of action over the other. The net cost of the next best thing that you sacrifice. If any of you take basic economics course, this will show up in there, what an opportunity cost is.
The cost of the next best thing you sacrifice?
Yes. So, I have in my wallet a $1 bill. If I were to spend this on something, say a drink at the vending machine, the advantage I would get from spending this, or if I'm considering my course of action to be plan, Lawrence should give $1 to this vending machine, right? And the advantage would be that I get a drink. That's cool. The direct cost is that I spend $1. But that's not really a big cost in and of itself. And the reason why the plan wins out in most of those instances is because, as it turns out, I value that drink that I'm getting from the soda machine more than the mere cost of this $1. Right? This $1 alone does not cost that much to me. So the advantage of getting a drink from the vending machine far outweighs the cost of this $1. But this $1 isn't just a random dollar. It has purchasing power. It can be used for other things. Instead of just merely giving up $1, which is the direct cost of me taking that course of action, I need to consider what else I can do with that $1. I can give it to a homeless person. I can save it. I can invest it. I can get something else from the vending machine. I can burn it up and watch the, shoot up in flames because it has really cool colors when it burns because of the ink that the reserve uses. All of these are potential alternative things that I can do with this $1. And those are costs that must be considered because I can no longer do any of those things if I get that drink from the vending machine. If I get that drink from the vending machine, that is the cost that I put into getting the drink. The advantage is I get the drink. And the disadvantage is I spend $1. But the real problem is that I lose the ability to do other things. And that's the opportunity cost, is the ability to do those other things with the $1. So, for the rest of this module, I'm mostly going to use this example of resolved Lawrence should eat. So if we were to propose a plan, the plan would be like Lawrence should go to McDonald's. Okay? What would be the advantage of going to McDonald's? Pretty obvious, yeah.
You get to eat.
Hunger, yes, the advantage is hunger. So, uniqueness. Lawrence is hungry now. Link, the app. Going to McDonald's solves hunger. Impact, hunger is really bad. It makes Lawrence really sad. So, that is the advantage to doing the plan. And most of the time, we would simply say, disadvantage. McDonald's is, I don't know, what? It costs money, right? It costs time to go to. It costs gas for a car or an Uber. And it costs me my health because it has a lot of carcinogens in it. All of these are disadvantages to doing the plan that we would normally consider. But the plan usually wins, right? I would still, in most worlds, end up going to McDonald's because I'm hungry enough that it overrides and outweighs those direct costs to doing the affirmative. It outweighs the cost of money. It outweighs the cost of gas. It outweighs the even risk of cancer that increases as a result of going to McDonald's. Generally. So reading only disadvantages against a plan like this is a recipe for a losing debate round. You're probably not going to convince me that I shouldn't go to McDonald's if all you do is present those direct costs. So instead what we need to do is propose a counterplan or a counter-advocacy, an ability or another alternative action that we can take one that is a relevant opportunity cost to the affirmative. So if I were to say Lawrence should go to McDonald's, what is something else that I could do instead? Yeah.
You should go to
Pick
another restaurant.
Pick a good restaurant though.
BJ's.
No.
Laura should go to Chipotle.
This is California. What's the one restaurant that we all want to go to?
In-N-Out.
Yeah, there we go. Counterplan. So Counterplan, Lawrence should go to In-N-Out.
Well, could the counterplan be like a restaurant and In-N-Out that's close to your house so you can walk, so you don't have to drive?
Well, here, let's just presume that it's actually literally me right now, and I'm actually debating whether I go to McDonald's or In-N-Out. So it's the In-N-Out in Westwood, and there's McDonald's in Westwood too. So both are approximately of equal distance. This is the first part of the counterplan, which is the counterplan text. Just like a plan text, it describes what the counterplan does. So in this instance, it says Lawrence should go to In-N-Out. The second part of the counterplan is competition. The purpose of competition in a counterplan is to establish why the counterplan is a relevant opportunity cost to doing the affirmative. So what again is the definition of an opportunity cost? All at once? Yes, so the cost is the next best thing that you give up by taking one course of action. So how do we determine if indeed we are giving up some other courses of action? Well, we use competition, and there are two primary forms of it. Does anyone know any of them? Yeah.
Mutual exclusivity.
So the first one is mutual exclusivity. Mutual exclusive means that it is impossible for me to simultaneously enact the plan and enact the counterplan. So in this example, say I only have 30 minutes of time. That prevents me from going to both McDonald's and In-N-Out, since both of them require approximately 30 minutes each, because McDonald's is pretty far away from In-N-Out, and both of them have a line. In a world where I only have 30 minutes, I am forced to make a choice between either the plan or the counterplan. It is logically impossible for me to go to both McDonald's and In-N-Out in this world of constraints.
So that solves for any permutation by the app on your counterplan?
Well, we'll get to the permutation stuff in a bit, but basically it establishes that it is a relevant opportunity cost. That in order to go to McDonald's, I necessarily have to give up the ability to go to In-N-Out because I don't have the time to do both, and I don't have the time to do any combination of both, right? So the first one is mutually exclusive, which means that it is impossible for me to do both. What is the second form of competition? Yeah? Net benefits. Why are you in this module if you already know all the answers?
He said the last like 3 answers.
What?
2 different people.
I know. Why are you both in this module if you all know the answers?
It was like my second or third choice. I didn't know this yesterday.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay. The second part is net benefits, which establishes that the counterplan is a relevant opportunity cost, not because you can't do both together, but because you should not do both together. So if you think of it separately, it's can't and shouldn't. Let's consider if I, for example, had, let's trip there. If, for example, I had an hour of time, and it didn't really mean, and it meant that I could go to both McDonald's and In-N-Out. It is logically possible for me to go to both McDonald's and In-N-Out. Well, in that case, there's not necessarily a relevant opportunity cost for the counterplan, because you can just do both, right? I can just go to both McDonald's and go to In-N-Out. That proves that we should still do the plan, that Lawrence should go to In-N-Out, or to go to McDonald's. And if the AF wins it, we should still do the plan, and they win. So we need to win that we should not go to In-N-Out, and we'll do this later on in a different section of the counterplan. So the third part of the counterplan is solvency. Solvency aims to show why the negative is capable of solving for some of the harms or the advantages that the affirmative proposes in the plan. So what's the plan? Is Lawrence should go to McDonald's, and what's the original advantage?
Gets to eat.
Yeah, I get to eat. It solves hunger. And remember that if all we did was not read a counterplan and just read it costs money, it costs gas, it costs time, and it costs me my health, you're probably not going to win this debate as a negative, because hunger is an issue that outweighs those other concerns. But now we have a counterplan. We have an ability to solve the exact harm that the affirmative proposes. If I go to In-N-Out, doesn't that solve the exact same problem that the affirmative proposes?
Yeah.
I get to solve my hunger issue as well. So solvency aims to show why a counterplan is capable of solving for the harms of the plan. It's useful because most debates, the affirmative advantages are very strong. It's very difficult to simply win a single disadvantage to the plan, and you're very rarely going to win that single disadvantage outweighs the affirmative. It's possible. There are some plans that do, in fact, lead to huge disadvantages that do outweigh, but the vast majority of the time, you're not going to be able to do that. So having a counterplan that can solve for some parts of the plan reduces the size of the affirmative advantage that they can weigh against the negative. In the original example, where there's no counterplan, the size of the hunger advantage is huge. The hunger advantage clearly outweighs the other smaller disadvantages. But now we have a counterplan that solves a good portion of that. Now both the affirmative and the negative resolve hunger, so the size of the affirmative advantage gets shrunk down to virtually 0. Did you have a question? Okay. Does a counterplan need solvency?
Yes.
Who thinks yes? Who thinks no? Who didn't raise their hand? All right, so for those of you who said yes, well, one of you, why do you think a counterplan needs solvency?
Because you need to solve for the harms, or else the plan can outweigh the counterplan if they solve and you don't.
Okay, for those of you who said no, why does a counterplan not need solvency? Yeah.
It is how like we should just stay in the status quo, like how we like should not do like the bad harms that will happen.
Okay. What? Okay. So before we get to this answer, what is the goal of a counterplan? It is to propose a relevant OC are the initials. Yes, to propose a relevant opportunity cost to the affirmative. Because again, debate is a question of benefits versus costs. If the AF wins if the benefits outweigh the costs, like the benefits of doing a utilitarian plan outweigh the costs of violating some freedom constraint, they win. So the only goal of the counterplan is to propose a relevant opportunity cost to the affirmative. That is it. If the opportunity cost outweighs the benefits, then vote negative. If the opportunity cost does not, then you should probably vote affirmative. With that in mind, do you need solvency? No, you do not. A counterplan is good if it has solvency, and in fact, most counterplans are effective because they have solvency. But theoretically, you could win with a bunch of counterplans that solve none of the affirmative, because you don't need to solve it, you merely need to outweigh it.
How is the counterplan different than a disad then if it's just the opportunity cost of what the app is doing?
Well, in some respects, it's not, right? So that's why some people who are like, no negative fiat, ha ha ha, you don't get a counterplan, are kind of wrong, because counterplans are just costs to doing the affirmative, just like a disadvantage is a cost to doing the affirmative. Now, the difference is that counterplans do weird things. So disadvantages, for example, do not have the potential to solve the affirmative. Counterplans do get the ability to solve the affirmative, so they are a bit different in that way. They're different because of the dollar bill example I proposed earlier. The direct cost is me just giving up the dollar. But the opportunity cost is me proposing what else I could have done with that dollar, such as donate it to charity. Right? So in both worlds, it's about the cost of doing the affirmative. But in one world, you get to propose a bunch of different things you could have done. And that's what makes it a bit different. So solvency. Important, not necessary. You do not need it to win a counterplan. There are, in fact, some wacky counterplans out there that have nothing to do with solving the affirmative, and they just exist on their own. But those are usually advanced counterplans, and we're not going to get into them today.
Like a pick?
Those usually attempt to solve the affirmative. The final part are the net benefits. What is a net benefit? Yeah.
Like advantages that like the app cannot like access.
Yeah, so there are reasons for why the counterplan is preferable to the plan. No, we'll get to that in a second. There are two types of net benefits. There's internal, and can you guess what the other type is?
External.
Yes. This is a crucial distinction that many top-level debaters do not know, and this has severe implications on their ability to effectively deploy counterplans. So, internal net benefits are, in short, a reason the counterplan is good. External net benefits are reasons the plan is bad. Internal, reasons the counterplan is good. External, counterplan is bad. So, let's come up with some examples of internal net benefits and then external net benefits. So the counterplan is Lawrence should go to In-N-Out. We are saying for now that it's competing through net benefits, that I have an hour of my time, but I really, I could go to both. It solves the affirmative because it solves the hunger issue. At both places I can get a burger. So now what's the internal net benefit to In-N-Out? What is something that is good about the counterplan? I'll start with one. It has animal fries, right? The counterplan is good because it has animal fries, animal style fries. Something the plan does not have. It does not have animal fries because I can just go and get some animal fries at In-N-Out. That is the reason why the counterplan is good. What's another example of an internal? Yeah?
That In-N-Out's healthier than McDonald's.
In-N-Out is indeed a little bit healthier than McDonald's, right? But not by much. They're both like researcher burger joints. I'm not really caring about my health when I walk into either one of these restaurants. What else? One more. Come on, it's so easy. In-N-Out's so good. Yeah?
You can get milkshakes.
Yes, and you can get milkshakes, right, at In-N-Out. So we have the animal fries, the health, and we have milkshakes. So these are all reasons the counterplan is good. If we were to go to In-N-Out, we could have animal style fries, we could eat a bit healthy, not really, and we could have milkshakes. So let's then think of some external net benefits. What are some external net benefits to doing the plan or doing the counterplan? So reasons the plan is a bad idea. Why is going to McDonald's bad? Yeah.
Food sucks.
Yeah, food tastes terrible. Not really, I like it. But yeah, food sucks. What else? Those of you sitting in the back, what is the reason for why going to McDonald's sucks? What is an external net benefit?
Why going to McDonald's is bad.
Yeah.
Well, they exploit workers. Supporting them.
Oh, I've never heard that one before. What a social justice minded people we are. Exploit workers.
Basically everybody who works for them is really that company.
Okay, and then one more external net benefit. I'll just put this one in here. It's just cancer, because McDonald's gives people cancer. At least according to the state of California. So we have some internal net benefits for reasons the counterplan is good, and an external net benefit, reason why the plan is bad. Something you'll realize here is that all of these external net benefits are just disadvantages to doing the affirmative. On your own, you could, without the counterplan, say, McDonald's food sucks. You on your own, without doing the counterplan, could say, McDonald's exploits workers. And you on your own, without the counterplan, could say, McDonald's gives you cancer. And all of these would be relevant costs to doing the affirmative. But the reason that they're external net benefits to the counterplan is they have to be something that the counterplan does not link to. So what was one of the original direct costs that I had for going to McDonald's? It cost me money. But why is this not a good external net benefit for the counterplan?
Because In-N-Out costs money.
Yeah, because In-N-Out also costs money. Why is me spending money on an Uber to go to McDonald's not a relevant external benefit to the counterplan? Yeah, because I have to do it in both worlds. So the money/gas net benefit is a terrible one.
It's not unique.
Right, so it's not an external net benefit to the counterplan. It does not provide a reason for why the counterplan is preferable to the affirmative. Because both the counterplan and the plan will utilize money and gas. So if you read the counterplan with the net benefit of McDonald's costs money, you'll get laughed out of the room because you obviously link to this disadvantage as well. So when making external net benefits are reasons the plan is bad that you could normally just construe of disadvantages, right? Just food sucks, McDonald's exploits workers, causes cancer, etc. But they have to be reasons for why the plan uniquely links and the counterplan does not. Because if the counterplan links, it's not a net benefit, it's just a wash. No one cares. So let's talk a little bit about how counterplans work now with all of these parts in place. Let's start with a counterplan that is mutually exclusive. So assume it doesn't really necessarily compete on net benefits. I literally only have 30 minutes of time. I can only go to McDonald's or In-N-Out. So counterplan text, Lawrence should go to In-N-Out. It's mutually exclusive. I only have 30 minutes of time. And then I put a solvency section in, which says that In-N-Out solves hunger better, and I have no net benefits. Is that a reason to vote negative? Is that a relevant opportunity constituting the app?
No.
No? Who thinks no? You all have to raise your hands if you think it's no. Who thinks it's yes, a relevant reason to not do the plan? Or, so it's not a relevant reason to do the plan? Okay. Why? Why does it not negate? Why does it not prove an opportunity
Because
cost?
an opportunity cost,
Okay, why?
because you're not showing any like bad overall or
There's no competition.
There is. It's mutually exclusive. I can only go to one or the other. Only 30 minutes of my time. It is no net benefits, so why do I need net benefits?
To like weigh over one or the other.
Okay, that's fair. So in this example, I would agree. This is probably not, on its own, a relevant reason to vote negative. It's not a relevant opportunity cost. Merely because it solves hunger is not a reason to prefer one over the other. And at best, it's just neutral. What if I said the Counterplan text was launched to go to In-N-Out? It competed purely off of mutual exclusivity. And its only advantage was that dollar for dollar, In-N-Out solved your hunger better. That if I spent $5 at McDonald's and $5 at In-N-Out, In-N-Out would make me a bit more full because I get a bigger burger. Is that a reason to vote negative?
Yes.
yeah,
Why?
It solves it.
it solves it.
Why is it relevant that it solves better?
So it's worth it.
Yeah.
Because you can use like the you'd be spending the same amount of money.
Yeah, no, I'm spending $5 in each world. Yeah?
Why doesn't the other side is bad and why your side is good?
Right. So in a world of limited options, right, and limited resources, limited time, in this world only 30 minutes to take an action, right, I have to pick one of these. And if one of them solves my hunger better than the other, obviously that is the one I should prefer. So with counterplans that are mutually exclusive, you can win entirely off of just having a better solvency section.
All right. Then why do you need net benefits if you just have better solvency?
Here's why. There's a good chance that In-N-Out does not actually solve hunger better than McDonald's. As it turns out, In-N-Out is more expensive than McDonald's because a $5 at McDonald's can get you a value meal. $5 at In-N-Out can only get you the burger. Unless, of course, you go for the hamburger, which doesn't have cheese, and that sucks. So in order to get the meal at In-N-Out, it'll cost you $7. So dollar for dollar, In-N-Out does not solve your hunger as well as McDonald's.
So you can show that it outweighs the $2 by saying that McDonald's might increase your risk of cancer.
Okay. So before we get to this external evidence part, so we are all in agreement that merely not solving hunger as well is a reason for why the counterplan is insufficient to vote negative, right? If it doesn't solve hunger as well, because $5 for $5 means that In-N-Out doesn't feed you as well, you would not vote negative, right? You'd still vote AF. The AF solves hunger better.
Well, it depends if you have net benefits.
Right. So this is where the internal and the external net benefits make sense. The internal net benefits on a counterplan that is internally or that is mutually exclusive, the internal net benefits would alone be enough to vote negative. What do I mean by this? Say I only have 30 minutes of my time, so I go to In-N-Out. And In-N-Out solves my hunger about the same as McDonald's, but not quite as well. But the one thing that In-N-Out does have is animal-style fries, and I really like animal-style fries. Now, if that internal net benefit is big, which it is for me, because I really like animal-style fries, is that a reason to vote negative now?
Yeah.
So who thinks no? So why is this not a reason to vote negative?
Because it still doesn't solve your hunger better, just so they like it better.
But I really like animal-style fries.
And it's
Who thinks it is a relevant reason to vote negative? Yeah, why?
Because I mean, if otherwise they're the same, and then like the internal benefits, like if you prefer it better, then if you like it better, then it's a reason to vote it. Because
Yeah. So in this world, assuming that I like animal-style fries a lot, this internal net benefit would outweigh the solvency deficit to the counterplan. So yes, the counterplan does not solve the hunger issue quite as well as the affirmative, because dollar for dollar, I'm getting a little bit less at In-N-Out. But it does have animal-style fries, and me being able to eat animal-style fries, for me, outweighs that little bit of hunger that the counterplan cannot solve. So if you win that the internal net benefit of a mutually exclusive counterplan outweighs the solvency deficit, then you win. which was complicated words. But basically, it means that if you can win that animal-style fries and the presence of those outweighs the little bit of hunger that the counterplan can't solve, then you should still go to In-N-Out, despite the fact that it can't solve hunger as well.
So you just use weighing?
Yes. Well, it's all that way, right? Solvency, again, is not a necessary section, right? You could just have a counterplan that has no solvency. But in this world, the reason we have solvency is so we reduce the size of the affirmative's advantage that we get to weigh the disadvantage of doing the affirmative against it a little bit better. In a world where we just said animal-style fries are good, it's probably not a good reason to not go to McDonald's, unless you said you could only pick between that and like a little bit of hunger, right? You would still pick the animal-style fries. It outweighs the little bit of hunger that you would still have after going to In-N-Out, or after going to McDonald's. Or, no, after going to In-N-Out, shoot. It's too early in the morning for this. Okay, so we can have mutually exclusive counterplans that can win from solving better, or it can win from having a better internal net benefit. Can we have a mutually exclusive counterplan that only has internal net benefits? Yes? We can have a counterplan with only internal net benefits? No, we can't have a counterplan with only internal net benefits. Yeah, is that a question?
Yeah. Would it depend on like how it outweighs the external net benefit?
Well, it wouldn't really depend on that. I'm just questioning if there is a possibility of a counterplan that exists with only an internal net benefit and no solvency. A mutually exclusive counterplan with only an internal net benefit and insolvency.
No, because that ends in the offerings.
Okay, so let's take my dollar bill example again.
Well, would that be a straight turn then? Because you're only showing whether counterplan is good.
No, it's not a straight turn because you haven't only, like counterplans aren't like turns, so. So we have a dollar bill, okay? Give it to the vending machine, and that's the cost, right? And I get a cola as a result, and that's the advantage. What if my counterplan was Lawrence should use that dollar and give it to charity? Does that solve any of the affirmative's advantages? It does not. It solves zero part of it because I still am thirsty and I don't have a cola. Does it have an external net benefit attached to it necessarily? No, I haven't presented at this moment a reason for why getting the cola was bad. But I do have an internal net benefit, which is that giving to charity is a much more worthwhile cause with my singular dollar. That any dollar that I can spend on cola is much better spent on charity. That it is actually much more likely that this will save someone's life, and that is a much more relevant and pertinent concern than that it will cure my thirst. So you can't have a counterplan with only internal net benefits if it competes through mutual exclusivity, because we can say that those limited resources that the affirmative is directed towards something should be directed towards something else entirely, and that other thing that we direct it towards outweighs the concerns of the affirmative.
Wouldn't that be like you're just taking the length of giving the dollar and just give it to charity?
Yeah.
So you're earning what good you can do with the dollar.
I'm not turning it because I'm not reversing a direction of the link. I'm presenting a cost to doing it, right? The cost of doing it is that I can't spend that dollar on charity.
So you're just producing a different direction.
Well, I'm just producing a different argument, yeah. A different cost. So you can have counterplans that only compete through internal net benefits. It is possible that instead of, if I had a 30-minute period of time and the plan was Lawrence should go to McDonald's, I could say, counterplan, Lawrence should go to a bookstore. It would solve none of the affirmative. But it would be a relevant opportunity cost, since I obviously cannot go to both the bookstore and McDonald's in that time. And maybe I really need to buy textbooks for my next semester, and this is my only chance to do it. Well, in that case, the internal net benefit of going to Barnes & Noble's in the bookstore would outweigh my hunger. I can get over my hunger, but I really need my textbooks. And that internal net benefit outweighs the affirmative, which is the negative. It is now a relevant opportunity cost. So, how are we doing so far? Relevant opportunity costs. Okay, most counterplans are not mutually exclusive now. If literally my plan was give $1 to the vending machine, and I was like, counterplan, give that $1 to charity, what would most of us say?
Charity.
Well, no. What, like, if someone was like, how dare you spend that $1 on the vending machine? Shouldn't you be giving to charity?
Oh.
What would you say?
One in the vending machine.
Yeah, you'd just be like, okay, I'll just like give to charity some other time, which is exactly my answer every single time, right? So most counterplans are not mutually exclusive. In fact, most of the time, I do have more than an hour or half an hour. I can go to both McDonald's and In-N-Out. Most counterplans compete primarily through net benefits. Yeah?
Can you like permutable? Like
We'll try to get to permutations at the end here, but we're not quite there yet. But yes, the correct answer to like counterplan, give $1 to charity. Generally, we would say the answer is just like do both. Okay, so most counterplans do not compete through mutual exclusivity because it is possible, especially for a government actor with much more time and resources and energy and personnel, staff, etc., to do more than one action at a time. So we generally have to have counterplans compete through net benefits. So plan, Lawrence should go to McDonald's. Counterplan, Lawrence should go to In-N-Out. Let's say I have solvency here, which is like it solves my hunger, and all I read is an internal net benefit, which is that animal style fries are good. I should go In-N-Out. Is this a relevant reason to vote negative? Does it present a reason for why the affirmative is a bad idea, or why the cost of the affirmative outweighs? So who thinks that just saying should go to In-N-Out, competes through net benefits, solves some of the hunger stuff, and has animal style fries is enough to vote negative? Yes?
Well, what are we missing?
No. Well, the only part I have to put is an external net benefit in there. So who thinks no?
Oh, yeah, no.
You think no?
What?
Okay. So for the vast majority of you, in the interest of preserving time, I'll just go through this real quick. No, it's not. If the conclusion of your argument is that we shouldn't do both, right? We shouldn't go to both McDonald's and In-N-Out, and the only reason you give is that In-N-Out has animal style fries, what is the logical conclusion of that? You can just go to McDonald's and then go get animal style fries at In-N-Out. Right? That's a logical conclusion. That entails that we still do the affirmative plan, which means you've not negated. You've not proven that there's a relevant opportunity cost to doing the affirmative. Lawrence should still go to McDonald's. An internal net benefit and a counterplan that competes through net benefits is not alone, because the logical conclusion of that is just to obviously do both. In order to win a counterplan that competes through net benefits, you have to have an external net benefit in there. If I said Lawrence should go to In-N-Out, we shouldn't do it because it competes through net benefits, it solves hunger, it has animal style fries, and McDonald's gives you cancer, is that a reason to vote negative now?
Yeah.
Yes, because McDonald's gives you cancer. I would not want to go to McDonald's if it gives me cancer, if I could also go to In-N-Out and solve my hunger and also get animal style fries, right? This is now, again, a relevant reason to vote negative, because we have an external net benefit. External net benefits, therefore, are preferable to internal net benefits the vast majority of the time, because they can't logically be solved by an affirmative to say, which just says, do both. Right? If we were to do both, the affirmative would still link to the cancer disadvantage. They would still link to the fact that they have carcinogens in their food. They would still link to the fact that McDonald's exploits workers and that McDonald's food sucks. You can't avoid that. But if all you said was that In-N-Out had animal style fries, you can't and didn't read any of these things, then the logical conclusion is just obviously do both. This brings us in to the concept of the permutation. If you all have heard this term before, it's perm, and that just simply means a test of competition. A perm is a test of competition. It questions whether or not the counterplan is a relevant opportunity cost. If you did some of the earlier examples that we mentioned, so for example, reading a counterplan that competes through net benefits and only through internal net benefits, the affirmative could say, permutation, do both. This is not a relevant opportunity cost to doing the plan, because we can just go to McDonald's and then get animal style fries at In-N-Out. It solves both of the issues that we have, right? And it avoids any of their disadvantages. There's no reason the plan is a bad idea. It is not a relevant opportunity cost to the affirmative. Perms don't usually work against mutually exclusive counterplans because it's pretty much impossible to do both against a counterplan that does the exact opposite or in a world of limited resources, yeah?
But it'd have to be that it can't, not shouldn't, right? That where it wouldn't work is if you can't.
What do you?
Or competition.
Well, yeah, so the perm can't work against the mutually exclusive one usually, because you obviously cannot do something that you cannot do both simultaneously. Yeah, so permutations are generally run against counterplans that compete primarily through net benefits, right?
Okay.
There are perms to read against mutually exclusive counterplans. Those are beyond the scope of this module. Most perms are against net benefit counterplans that compete through net benefits. Right? And the way you beat back most of these permutations is by having good external net benefits. It matters not if the negative has strong external net benefits to the affirmative. Because maybe we could do both, right? If I had enough time, we could go to McDonald's and In-N-Out, and we'd get animal-style fries at In-N-Out, and that'd be a good idea. But the problem is that doing both still links to all of these external disadvantages, all of these external net benefits. These food still sucks. McDonald's still exploits workers. McDonald's still gives you cancer. Shouldn't do any of those things. Now, most people think permutations are simply do both. Well, that's not the case. A permutation is a test of competition, which includes the plan in it, right? And so you can have permutations that, for example, do only part of the counterplan. So maybe the original counterplan was Lawrence should go to In-N-Out and get a burger and fries, but they only write an internal net benefit to animal-style fries. So you could say permutation, go to McDonald's and get animal-style fries, and you wouldn't do the entirety of the counterplan. So that's something that people get mixed up on. It's a permutation doesn't have to be do both. It just usually is because it's the most common type of permutation. Okay, running out of time here, so I'm going to wrap it up real quick. The key points to take away. Plans are easy. There are advocacies that the affirmative says and then generates advantages off of them. That doesn't really take that much time to figure out. There's an acronym that's easy to remember that tells you what the stock issues are, but most plans are simply just a plan and an advantage. You're done. Counterplans are a bit different because they compete through, because they have to establish relevant competition. And this competition part is the source of a lot of theory debates and a lot of theoretical disputes amongst debate scholars as to what a legitimate counterplan is. People have been pushing the boundaries of counterplans for a while, but the only important thing that you need to take away from this module, if you take away nothing else from this module, counterplans are relevant opportunity costs to the affirmative. If a counterplan is not a relevant opportunity cost, it is not a counterplan, or at least not a very good one. So counterplans need to be relevant opportunity costs to the affirmative. They're composed of these primary elements. As long as you know that they're competing through either mutual exclusivity or net benefits, and the net benefits they have are internal and external, then you're in a good starting point. It takes a while to internalize all this information because there's a lot that I've thrown at you over the course of this hour, but this is, I think, a strong introduction to what a plan and what a counterplan is. And these form sort of the basis of the vast majority of the policy-style debates you'll be having, and it's also a necessary form of knowledge to have if you plan on getting into any other type of debate, for example, theory debate or critique debate.
Plan on that.
Ha. Alrighty.